The Gallagher Shots podcast is sponsored by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. We are here. It is a Sunday morning, and it is the day after Newcastle United get their first Premier League win of the season. I am your host, Kris, joined by Iain this morning. And Iain, we're going into that game. Newcastle United unbeaten in the last 8 against Wolves. So I think everybody was pretty confident going into this one. Being a season ticket holder and being lucky to go to the game myself, walking up to the ground yesterday, it felt different. It felt like it was kind of the first game of the season, even though we've already played a game at St. James's Park this season. It felt different. I think, and I mentioned this a couple of times on the Monday show, that everything that's gone over the summer, which we'll not touch on in this episode, but that saga kind of like being put to bed now, it kind of felt like a fresh start. The new lads were arrived. Yes, we know there was a couple of injuries, which we'll go through, no doubt, in this podcast. But I felt excited. I felt I was returning back to St. James's Park, and I had forgot the previous game. I'm not sure what it felt like you watching at home.
No, very much the same. Obviously, me, Roger, Joe did the pre-game show, or we try to do the pre-game show, except for with terrible Wi-Fi issues. But
it was like a merry-go-round, that pre-game show.
We're just keeping it spicy. No, we said very much the same, that it was kind of, we've put the whole scenario behind and we're concentrating on the squad that we've got now. So it very much had like first game of the season feels. And like I say, it was a case of getting the lads in that we've got now, using who we have, and concentrating on moving forward and leaving sort of quite a disruptive summer behind us.
If you can't be confident going into a game against Wolves who've lost all 3 games, I'm sure they've lost all 3 games since the start of the campaign. If you can't get a result against Wolves, there's going to be serious issues for the rest of the season. That's what was my opinion going into this one.
Yeah, I felt the same. I was saying to my brother-in-law, it's not necessarily a must-win game in terms of the like consequences if you don't win it, but it's a must-win game in terms of who your opposition is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've like, if you want to be up and around in the sort of European Champions League spots again, you need to be beating like Wolves at home. Like you say, they've won. I think they won in the League Cup, but they've lost all 3. They got battered off City. Bournemouth beat them, and then Everton, who by all accounts have had a good start. So you needed to be turning up and not expecting a win, but putting in a performance that was fairly comfortable and getting 3 points.
Especially what we've seen so far this season. I think, yes, we've only played 3 games, and I'm completely forgetting that Leeds game in that, because nobody wants to relive that moment and that 90 minutes of football. But if you're looking at the start of the season against likes of Villa and Liverpool, then it's some decent performances there, and very unlucky not to get all 3 points. So you're thinking, right, we're back at home here. We're back at St. James's Park. We've got some new lads in that squad as well. Like we said, the whole summer issues have gone. They're all buried. And you're thinking, right, like you said, that it wasn't a must-win game, but we needed points on the table. Other teams around were picking up points and picking up wins, apart from Wolves. And you're thinking, right, we need to get 3 points. We need to show that we are going to pick up the season right here and continue that going forward. The whistle goes. And the first 5 minutes, it didn't go that way, Iain, because Wolves came out of the traps. They really did. They had a shot on target, which Nick pulled off a great save. I think it was like 45 seconds or something different.
It was less than that.
I think
it was 8. So
was it 8 seconds?
They pumped it, because I had got sat down on the sofa just for kickoff, went to get me drink, and then I heard like loads of commotion from the commentator. I was like, what's just happened? But yeah, they pumped it long. I think it gets flicked on. I think he runs inside Trippier, and he has a shot, and Pope actually tips it out for a corner, and then they have, from the resulting corner, the ball breaks. I think it might have been, I can't remember who it was, Gomez maybe, He had a shot that Pope pulls off a save again around, I think it was around 30, 40 seconds. But yeah, the starter was just like, Jesus Christ, this is going to go terrible this afternoon. But thankfully, we calmed it down. I did think in the first half in general, we looked quite shaky at the back, which was a little bit surprising given that it's not like a new sort of setup. There wasn't new bodies in there. It's pretty much as was for the majority of the start of the season. So
I think we saw that the best and the worst from our defense during that game. The second half, do you know what it is? I'm not going to talk much about the second half because that's forgettable. It just wasn't a great watch the second half. But the first half, I thought were decent spells. But just sticking with the defense, you like I said, you saw the best and the worst. That last ditch tackle from Fabian Shaw to basically just away from the Wolves striker to put it out for a corner. Dan Burn comes in with a great challenge as well at one point. But then the worst of it, you get Fabian Shaw that tries to make a clearance and they just go straight back to the Wolves player that's put the ball back in. But I thought Tino, like, I love Tino, you know. I think Tino is one of those players that is going to be an absolute superstar. And there's no surprise that there was rumours in the summer about Man City looking at Tino to come in to play on the right-hand side for them. And Tino, obviously, he's playing on the left-hand side for us at the moment. But he looks fantastic. He really does. But we saw when he was away at England, he performed exactly the same for England as what he has done for us over the last season a bit. And you know what it is? Like, I love him. Like, he's quickly becoming one of my favourite players in this squad.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I was on the fence with him in his first sort of season. Obviously, he came with a lot of potential. He looked class when he was at Southampton and did his ACL, but it just looks now like he's really matured. He doesn't look like it sounds bad, but it doesn't look like he's trying. It just looks effortless with him. He's brilliant going forward, and he offers with another sort of prong in attack. But his defensive work, I think, is really picked up. And like you say, he's playing on the left as opposed to the right, which is his natural position. So it just shows the versatility he's got. But I agree with you. I think he's game on game now. He's just, you can see he's developing. And we looked at maybe his last season, the season before with Lewis Hall and how much he developed. And I think there was a kind of a comparison on how Tino was. And I didn't feel that his sort of development was as sort of noticeable as Hall's, but you can notice it now if you sit and watch him. He's turned into just a really, really assured right back, left back. So he's up there with one of my favourite players at the moment.
I think with this match reaction, I think we'll probably go through like what we have done so far this season. Because once upon a time, over previous season, we used to go through minute of the game. But I think this season we'll stick to the format that we've been doing and just discuss certain moments and certain players in the game as well. Because the one player that I want to put a spotlight on right now is Jacob Murphy. A lot of fans, including myself, have heavily criticised Jacob Murphy over the past and still continue to criticise him at times, probably harshly, to be honest. And when we signed Elanga, everybody was saying, right, Elanga comes straight in, he starts on that right-hand side, completely forgetting what Jacob Murphy had done last season for us. His goal contributions last season were phenomenal. There's no denying that. And when he's had his chance, I know we're still so early on the season, but when he started the game so far this season, he is getting in them areas. He's getting chances at goal. He's creating chances himself at goal. He's probably one of the few players on that field that is brave enough to have a shot from outside of the box as well, especially when we're trying to work the ball into the goal in the back of the net. Just nice little pass, nice footwork to get into those positions. Some points you need a player just to go, I'm just going to hit it. And Jacob Murphy's that player, and we saw it a couple of times against Wolves as well. Yes, both shots went wide to the keeper's right, but came very close in moments that were probably needed to get the game by the scruff of the neck. But forgetting he's like the shots and testing the goalkeeper and defense, his crossing ability is unbelievable at times. That we're talking and we're giving all the plaudits to Woltemade for finding the back of the net and scoring a sublime header was great. But he doesn't do that without that cross from Murphy. It is pinpoint. It really is. And I think we've got the Barcelona game coming up, and yes, we will preview that at certain points. Murphy starting that game for me, like.
Weirdly enough, I was thinking about it this morning before we came on, and to me, it was a little bit surprising Alanga was dropped. But going back to the Leeds game that I wish I never watched, Murphy was probably the best attacking player in that. And I thought it might have been a case of Howe having an eye on the Barcelona game and looking up to Alanga for maybe on the transition. But then when Murphy comes in and he gives you a reason to ask questions of, well, does he get a start next game? He was really, really good again. And it's weird because I've been a big critic of him in general, but when you look at the likes of, if you class us as we are a Champions League side this season, but if you look at the likes of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and their right wingers, you're thinking how are we starting Jacob Murphy if we're sort of rubbing shoulders with them? So if you're comparing the likes of like Salah and Saka, but like you say, last season his output was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He's come in the last 2 games. He's been given a chance and he's took it. Like you say, his cross for the goal was phenomenal. There was a one not long into the first half as well where he puts a really good ball over, and I think the keeper just gets it ahead of. I think Joe Linton's coming in at the back post. But his delivery is really, really good. And we were talking sort of before the like when the team came out, I think, well, why is he putting Murphy in? And people are saying, oh, because his delivery is really good. But then you look at Voldemort and people were saying, well, that's not his game. So it was a little bit of a like
Apparently it is.
But yeah, I mean, his header was reminiscent of like old sort of late 90s, early 90s proper centre forward header.
It's Andy Carroll-esque, that.
It was, yeah.
So that was.
But again, like you said, this doesn't come from. It doesn't happen unless Murphy puts that cross in, and he's confident enough to, like you say, even with crosses, he's confident enough to try that. He doesn't look for like a clear opening. He'll try and bend one in and sort of miss players out. And I think, like you say, sort of looking forward ahead to the Barcelona game, Howe's got a decision to make on who he starts. But from what I've seen this season, you would have to argue, yeah, Murphy does start.
And I know right now, as we're giving credit to Jacob Murphy, there'll be people watching this screaming, but he misses that chance in the 13th minute, and where he's right in front of the goalkeeper, and he just hits and hopes, I think, and the keeper knows nothing about it. It hits the keeper's knee. I think it is. Yeah. But yes, of course, he should have done better than that. That should have been the opening goal of the game. Of course, it should have been. We're not denying that, but it happens in football. I just think, from what we're getting from so far this season from Jacob Murphy compared to what we've seen from Alanga, Jacob Murphy starts for me until we see something different, or we need something different in those moments, especially how well we saw that link up play with the goal of the game. Yes, Eddie Howe's got a question, but I think right now it's probably a very easy question to answer at this moment in time. That might change as the season goes. Obviously, you need to use your squad, which is depleted already at the moment. So you've got to take these opportunities where you can make those changes, which I think we will see on Thursday a little bit. But once again, we will save that for the Barcelona preview. A couple of other things that I want to mention is obviously we discussed the goal, which was great to see. Voldemort debut goal, fantastic. Over at the Leeds end, takes that unbelievably well. Just finding that little bit of space that he did as well, because it's quite a late run. Because the ball comes in, it's a bit of a late run that he makes to get in. He's quite flat-footed when the ball gets delivered. Then he's right, I'm in, and then he just takes that little step back as the defender's going towards the ball, finds that space, and it's a great header. The keeper's got no chance. I think he scores that and he doesn't know how to celebrate. He just looks a little bit confused as to what to do. And the interviews afterwards, Iain, have been great from him. He just seems really down to earth. It seems like he's been here for God knows how long already.
Yeah, he comes across, because he's only young as well. Like you say, it's a complete new league for him. He even sort of mentioned, in terms of comparisons to England and Germany, he said even like the fans are different in Germany. So they asked him about the chant that he had, and he went, yeah, it's really good. But he just seems like he wants to work hard, and he said there'll be games where obviously it goes well for him. There'll be games where it'll be a little bit harder to try and implement his game in the match. But it was a great finish, a really good moment as well. To be fair, I was absolutely buzzing for him because obviously with what's happened in the summer, it's a lot of money to spend on a young lad that you're paying realistically for potential. I know he has obviously had a few goals in last season.
I think everybody would agree, yeah.
But I'm just absolutely buzzing that he's up and off the mark. And obviously turned
That's
out
not forgetting
to
that
be
everybody
the
was
winner as well.
expecting before the press conference that it would be Wissa starting because obviously Premier League experience, everything which has happened when he's been on international G hasn't helped things. And I think they're saying 4 to 5 weeks now before Wissa is back, which I'm taking with a pinch of salt. I think it might be a bit more than that. I'm really worried that this injury is worse than what we are expecting. Typical Newcastle United, a player that's missed so few games over his career in football. He signs for Newcastle, hasn't kicked a ball, goes on international duty, and gets injured for 5 weeks. You couldn't write that stuff. You really couldn't. But it is what it is. We're just got to pick our heads up and get on with it right now. Before the goal, something which happened in the game, which hasn't really been highlighted outside of the Newcastle fan base, I would say, is the potential red card. So it's a great bit of football from us, and Bonds has played through it, and Bonds has just got himself in front of the defender. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. Was it
Mascara, maybe? I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was Mascara, yeah. So then he goes in, he's got no intention of going after the ball, none whatsoever. And it's is it an elbow, is it a forearm smash, like whatever you want to call it. He leads in with his arm to basically to stop Bonds from getting to the ball. The referee doesn't do anything. The referee just continues, and then it goes to VAR, like everything does. And VAR didn't take a little bit of time, not a huge amount of time, but it seems to be waved away pretty promptly. And now that I've seen it back, because obviously I didn't see it back until I got back home last night after the match, and I'm thinking, how is that not a red card? That's a red card all day long.
Yeah, I agree. I think I didn't quite catch it in the match, and then they went to show a replay, but then something else was happening, and then they actually stopped playing, looked at it, and you can see Mosquera's literally, his eyes are just on Bonds. He's got no line of sight for the ball. He just makes a beeline for him, and like you say, body checks him. And with the laws of the game, obviously, if say for example he went to tackle him and caught him, as long as he's attempting to play the ball, it's a yellow card. But he's made no attempt to go. The ball's past him. Bonds has passed him. He's wiped him out, and for me, that's a red card. I know it's obviously hasn't had a massive impact on the game, but it's regardless, it's a red card. Like it just goes back to like how poor the refereeing is. Like I was watching the West Ham Spurs game, and their disallowed goal was ridiculous as well. And for anyone with eyes, that
well, they're saying there was a push, but everybody was wrestling each other in the box.
So basically, yeah, they said I think Van de Ven fouls. I think it might have been Kyle Walker-Peters, but if you look, I think it's Fernandez for West Ham pushes into Van de Ven, who then falls for it. So it's like a domino effect. But it was instigated by a West Ham player. It's like anyone with eyes can see that, and it's similar to ours. Like you don't have to be an expert or a former player or a pundit to know that he's not made an attempt to play the ball, and by the rules of the game, it's a red card.
It's so frustrating though, because we've always had a bit of a dig at officials, especially since VARs came in. From what we see as blatant, they're not being given, or things being given when they shouldn't be. And you think as if each season goes on and there's a start of a new season, you think that will get better. It always seems to go the other direction. Like there's been so many things already. We're only 4 games into the season. There's been so many things. I think it was the first game of this season. I can't remember who was playing, but there was an absolute massive balls up by the officials. And you think, how can you just constantly get this wrong? And like you're just looking at that Bond situation, and I'm looking at that back and going, how have you? What are you seeing here? That's saying that he's challenged for the ball here with the intention of winning it, or you could possibly say that they might look at that and say that you're allowed to block a player from going to a ball to a certain extent, which you are, just not with your shoulder or your elbow or your forearm, whatever you're trying to do in that moment. I just don't get it. I really don't. It's really frustrating because that was before our goal. So And I think after we got with the goal, you could see straight away that we were on top straight away. We kept on going and going and going. Then Tonali gets the chance straight after, which he fools that full stadium. I think he fooled himself at one point because the way he hits at that ball, I think it's going out for a throw-in because he snaps at it. Then the keeper is just completely flat-footed and he just sees that bounce off the inside of the post and come back around him. And I think once we got the goal, yes, despite if we just forget about the whole red card appeal, once we got that first goal, the rest of that first half, it was predominantly Newcastle United.
Yeah, and just to mention Tonali, for me, he was man of the match. Like, he just did like everything so well. And I've said this pretty much from his first season. He gets about the pitch with ease. Like, you don't realize how like rapid he is. He recycles the ball really well. He holds the ball really well. Like you said, he sort of looked like he was going to line up with his right foot and just sort of shifted onto his left, and then. From your angle, it looked like it was a mishit, but from watching it on telly, it's just like the coolest left foot. It was almost like a pass.
It's an absolute grass cutter, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's so unlucky that doesn't bounce off the post and go in. But I thought he was tremendous. Like you said, we ended the first half pretty well and pretty on top. Second half was a bit of a damp squib. But Tonali,
the game changed. The game changed. Iain, I think it was probably the moment where Woltemade wants to come off. We'll see in the interviews afterwards where he says that he was cramping up a little bit in the second half. So that's just the intensity of the Premier League and probably the intensity of Eddie Howe's football as well, which is something he's just categorically not used to. So you would expect out. You know what is? I think even if he hadn't cramped up, he would have been subbed off at some point period. Maybe not as early as what he was, but a little bit. I think we saw it in that stadium as clear as day that the game changed when Joe Linton went off and Woltemade came off as well. Asula comes on and it's Joe Willock, I think. There's another substitution that comes on and it went unbelievably flat after that. Not just on the field, but in the terraces as well. Yeah, the stands. It went a bit flat. I'm not saying it was bad atmosphere throughout, but it was a bit flat at times. But I think that's probably because the more the second half went on in typical Newcastle United fashion. As a fan of this football club, you're thinking, oh, Jesus, we're only 1-0 up here. We need another one, which it didn't look likely of coming in that second half. I'm with Asula up top. You know what it is. I'm not convinced. I don't think I'll ever be convinced with Asula. And I know that there's certain fans out there that do see a player in him. I don't right now. I really don't. The same with Willock. Like, I've always wanted Willock to do unbelievably well at this football club. And we've seen it in glimpses. That first season where he was with us on loan, he was unbelievable. Then he's had moments throughout his career at Newcastle where he has looked good. But more often than not now, he fails to impress, if I'm being honest. And you could probably throw Barnes in there for his performance as well. And Trips at times as well. Trips wasn't great yesterday. There was a couple of players that were a bit poor, let's say, to put it nicely. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's 3 points, so of course it doesn't matter. But I don't know. I'm expecting a little bit more from some of these players.
Yeah, so I think the likes of Trippier, he had a fairly poor game in terms of going forward. I think he got caught out a couple of times go back. But like you said, the likes of Harvey Barnes, I'm still on the fence. I don't really see what he brings. Like, yes, he can. There'll be times where he'll, like, for instance, Wolves away last season, West Ham the season before, where he'll single-handedly sort of take the game by the scruff of the neck, cut in and score. But that's when he's coming off the bench. When he starts, he doesn't really do a lot for me. And we talked about when Murphy got his chance, he does stuff to warrant a start the next game. Barnes has got a chance now. He's had a chance where he's missed. Gordon's missed 3 games, and Barnes is yet to convince me this season. Similar with Willock as well. Like you say, there was a player there when we had him on loan. I don't know if it's because as a squad and as a team we got better and better, and he might have just been at that time like a big fish in a small pond, whereas now he's got better players around him. It's kind of showing that.
I think he has probably been left behind with the injuries as well. I think the team's probably progressed.
Yeah, that won't help. And I think he was very much a confidence player as well. And I think because it hasn't went right for so long, he's just in a massive slump. And I do hope he can turn it around because I do like him. But for me, I just think he's borderline future at the club. I don't see him staying long term. And obviously with the likes of Jacob Ramsey, I know he's another injury concern. That's going to be out for the next 6-7 games. Willock's got that chance to prove. But for me yesterday, again, might have just been the second half in general. But the substitutes didn't really do much for me.
One of the Wolves players that I did want to mention that was getting wound up in an absolute right little Raji. Who do you think I'm gonna to say here?
I don't know. Was it number 8?
Number 8, it was Gomez. Jesus.
Gomez, yeah.
Do you know what it is? He got so frustrated in that second half because I think he was getting outclapped by Tonali. Tonali was running rings around him, and you could see he was just trying to leave things on a couple of our midfield players. He done it with Bruno a couple of times. He done it to Tonali. He done it to Tino at one point as well when he was pushing up. And he was just getting, honestly, he was like a Yorkshire Terrier, just running around after everybody's ankles, but couldn't get near it. And you could see he was getting more and more frustrated. And I said to Scott, who was sat next to us yesterday, I went, he's going to be the next one to get a yellow card. And obviously he was. He was a nutter. Like, honestly, you could see him getting more and more wound up as that game went on.
Yeah, I think it was the foul on Bruno where he just completely wipes him out, and that's what he gets his yellow for. And then I thought there was another one not far after that, and he had already been booked. It looked like one of those challenges from initial viewing. Looked like one of those challenges where if he's not on a yellow card, he probably gets the yellow card
all day long. Yeah.
But again, that just goes to the poor officiating. Like it's annoying. I know, obviously, every foul after you're on a yellow doesn't warrant a yellow, but there was a couple of them that were pretty much for me. If he hadn't been booked, he would have got booked. But I thought there was a few of their players as well. I don't know if it was their game plan, but there was a couple of times where one of them got hit in the face with a ball, and he was going down, staying down. That was in the box, and then I think it might have been that Mosquera actually. On the halfway line, so if someone tries to flick the ball, just kind of hits off his face, and then
every time there was a challenge on them, they went down holding their heads. Every single challenge, and it was getting really frustrating, especially when you're losing the game at that point. You're thinking you're not achieving anything at this point. You're slowing the game down, but you're still losing. It was a tactic that you'd probably use, probably one that Fabian Shaw uses quite a lot when we're winning a game. But honestly, you're right. What you're saying, what you picked up every single player every time. So there was one, I think it was the Wolves number 5. I can't remember who it was. He went down. He went off the field. He came back on. Then about 30 seconds later, he went back down again, like holding his head.
Yes, he did. Yeah, because I'm sure he came on. We might have had like a long throw or a corner at a point, and he got waved back on. I think that's when he got the ball kicked off his face. So, but yeah, it was. In general, yesterday afternoon was quite frustrating. I expected Witter to come out and make a really good show of themselves, especially with quite a tricky run, really tricky run. We've got obviously Barcelona, Bournemouth will never really do well down there, and then Arsenal the week after. So it was a chance to sort of put on a display that had maybe got your confidence back up going into those games. Obviously, we've won, and I think that was more important than how we won. But that second half yesterday, even instances sort of the last, I'd say 10, 15 minutes, it looked like Wolves were sort of on the ascendancy. I'd never really thought they were a goal threat, other than the first 40 seconds. I think Pope had a couple of crosses to deal with. He dealt with them well, but it just looked like we were allowing them back into the game more and more.
Yeah,
and
second half, 100%.
That was I don't know if that was just because of the occasion of right, we're in front, we need the first 3 points, and there was a little bit of nerves or what. But the second half was, for me, far from convincing. But like you say, the 3 points is the most important thing.
Of course, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you win that football game. It's the first win of the season. It's a win that we needed. So I was going to be taking that 3 points anyway whatsoever that they were going to be earned. And I think it was quite telling at the end of the game. The lads found that very, very hard, because as soon as that full-time whistle went, there was about 4 or 5 our lads just dropped to the floor as if he had lost the game. They were that knackered. where they're just on the backs, just trying to catch the breath, because you could tell. I think Eddie Howe mentioned it afterwards, saying that it was a very tough afternoon for Wolves did everything that they possibly could to try and ruin the game, I'm going to say. But that's not saying that they haven't created chances as well, because they did do that early on, and they had a couple of chances in the second half as well. So I'm not taking anything away from them. But I think it's quite telling that Wolves are probably in for a very, very difficult season this year. That's four on the bounce in defeats as well in the Premier League. So it's not great. Yes, we know they were missing Strand Larson, who's apparently got an injury. So he wasn't playing, but he could change things for them. But I don't know. I can't see Wolves getting out of this already because they don't look great.
Yeah, it's very much a game where, say, although Southampton's not a great example, when we played them, I think it was last season, they looked like a team that were fairly decent in football, or carving out chances. Where Wolves yesterday, it was very much like almost like a end of the season mid-table performance. Like they didn't really offer much. Like you say, they are missing Strand Larson. He could possibly be an answer to them, but for all it was worth, it didn't look like a great performance. But like I say, it's really good that we've got the first 3 points under our belt. Hopefully build a little bit of momentum going into what is a giant game on Thursday. A giant few weeks, actually, because then we've got the Carabao Cup game as well against Bradford. Well, I've just realised as well, it's actually our trophy to defend. So you don't want to be...
It is.
Any slip-ups there, you want to avoid that. And then the game after that, I think, Arsenal. So a few big weeks coming up for us.
I think it was something daft before that Wolves game. Was it like 7 games in 22 days or something ridiculous like that? It's a tough old period coming up.
Because I think with Jacob Ramsey, I think he misses... I'm sure he missed 7 or 8 games, including Wolves yesterday with his injury. I'm sure it's something like we've got 4 or 5 Premier League games. 2
Well, they basically said the
games
next international break, weren't they?
Yeah.
That's what they were nodding towards. Which I'm going to throw Wissa in there as well. I think that's going to be the next one as well. There's one of the things which we haven't mentioned about the Wolves game, which happened right the way through that first half, which was unbelievably comical, was the battle between Fabian Shaw and their big lad up top, who looked taller than Dan Burn at times. He looked massive.
He was a unit,
honestly, they were scrapping each other, but to the point where it wasn't kicking off. It was just a great battle between them two, to the point where we get awarded a free kick, and it was never a free kick, where he challenges Fabian, and Fabian just throws himself like this and like in the air, and he gets a free kick for it. And I think in the second half it switched around a little bit. I think Burns started defending him in the second half. Honestly, it was great to watch because it was right in front of us in the Gallagher. And I don't know, I was thinking, Fabian, if you keep doing this and trying to win the free kick, that it might go the opposite way once, and he's just away on goal as you're like throwing yourself around. But you know, it's like just to go back, I think yes, it was. You could probably say it was an ugly win at times. It wasn't a spectacle that you probably want to go back and relive. The first half, I thought we'll play some decent football in the first half. We'll work the ball well. Woltemade, we've touched about his goal, but that ball sticks to him like glue. Like you just can't get that ball off, and he's really, really good. And this is something which we knew, that he's great at bringing players in to the game around him as well.
There was a couple of times when he was sort of round the penalty spot. I think it was one of our first attacks, and Murphy looked like he was going to lay it off to one of the midfielders and kind of hits the pass. And Voldemort was there straight away. So he's very, very quick. He's like very switched on. I thought he did quite a good couple of bits of link-up play. I think he actually laid off Murphy. I think it might have been that instance, and Murphy just kills one wide. But he does look like he's
he had that lovely ball over the top, which was offside in the long run, but the one where he dinks over the top for Barnes, and Barnes puts Murphy through. The goal's disallowed in the long run. Like, but it's a great like way of. I think he was reading the game really well for his first game in the Premier League. He read it unbelievably well.
Yeah, he did. There was a fair bit of sort of pressing as well. I was quite impressed at that for him, being sort of a giant of a man.
That's why he was cramming up in the second half.
And to be fair, he looks like he's got a bit of pace about him, which
he does 100%.
You don't necessarily associate with 6'6", 6'7" strikers. But yeah, I was impressed with him. I agree with So I had like Soccer Saturday on after the match, and I think it was Paul Merson was covering our game, and he was saying that he wasn't involved in a great deal in the box, but for what he was doing, he did it very well, and I completely agreed. He didn't, like you say, I think he had maybe a header that went over. He took his goal really well, but I thought his general link-up play and how sharp he looked for, like you say, for being his first game, it was impressive. So hopefully he can take that under his belt and then just sort of move on from there and progress.
But yeah, it's 3 points on the board, hard-earned 3 points. We needed those. We did. Like I said at the very start of this one, teams around were picking points up already. Teams that you're winning games that you probably wouldn't expect to win games against the opposition that they're up against. So honestly, it was crucial. Yes, it wasn't a must-win, but it was unbelievably crucial that we got those 3 points, especially being what I'm going to say is hard done by in a couple of other games at the very start of the season, where we'll probably deserve something from it, even more than what we have got from it, and we didn't do that. I think the Wolves game we deserved, in the long run, we deserved all those 3 points because Wolves were shite, and they're probably going to be shite for the rest of the season. Sorry, Wolves, but he's on great. Anything else that you want to add before we end it on this one?
No, just roll on Thursday, back in the Champions League.
I think we're going to see changes on Thursday, but once again, we will be doing preview for the Thursday's game. Let's remember Anthony Gordon will not miss this game, so he's going to be starting that one. Of course, he is. It was nice to see him on the touchline at full time as well.
Yeah, really nice.
Congratulating all the lads as they came off the field one by one. So I love that little moment. Shows the unity in the squad as well. But yeah, we will be back with a preview for that upcoming Barcelona game. Feels mad just saying that once again. Barcelona at St. James's Park under the floodlights again. But yeah, plenty more stuff to come. I will be back tomorrow night for the live Always Smiling Faces podcast, which will probably be going out around about 8 o'clock tomorrow. And yeah, just like the video, become a subscriber. I think we're really close to 12,000 at the moment if we haven't already hit that. So just do us a favor. Let us get that 12,000 mark. If you do want to give an extra bit back, it is just $2.99 a month to become a member. You get early access to videos. You get extra videos in that. And you do get access to the Telegram group, which is just full of Newcastle United fans like yourselves, just talking all things black and white. Thanks very much, Iain. Been a pleasure as always. Go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Finally, 3 points on the board. But yeah, thanks everybody. See you later. Ta-ra.